What's going on, guys? It's your boy LQ with my boy Cody. This is the Fantasy Heat Check, baby. We are here. We are back. I know we missed the episode, but we are back this week, and we are bringing the heat. What up, Cody?
Look, LQ, we had a phenomenal weekend at the Fantasy Expo in Canton, Ohio. Learned a lot, talked to a lot of people, and it was a good time, man. We definitely did not drink a ton of beer and hang out with our fantasy football friends, Gmo and Chris. Appreciate y'all. Chris, tall as hell in person, I tell you. But we are excited to be back.
Oh. Yeah, he is tall like Blake Griffin. Like that is legit. That is legit height. That is as advertised. Like you showed up 7'1" and you are the guy.
Loved it. But so LQ, was there any big fantasy takeaways that we had from the expo outside of that? The fantasy community might be one of my favorites on the internet. I mean, just incredibly great people.
I mean, we got some amazing heavy hitters in this industry, man, like in this space and the Twitter streets, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to label it. It was just so good to see everybody come together and just share each other's, experiences of meeting new people out there networking. Like I met some pretty awesome people, man, like some people that, I didn't interact with much on the internet, but as soon as we met, boom, connected like we were boys. So it was also great to finally meet you. 3 years running, we've been doing this and going on year 4, and we finally meet in person, drink some beers. Yo, those wings at Buffalo Wild Wings, you were missing out, but they were good.
They hit. We needed that. But
needed refuel.
And speaking of refuel, my football soul was re-energized this weekend, right? And I know that we had the Hall of Fame game, right? And that, just a little taste, like an appetizer to the meal. We had a full week of preseason NFL football. The reactions on Twitter were dangerous. The reactions on internet were even more dangerous, or on Instagram. So it's always difficult, right, to kind of disseminate, okay, what's real and what's preseason football.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead, LQ.
It's kind of hard to not react / overreact. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of hard to not get excited to see Drew Lock, hit KJ Hamler for like a 50-yarder touchdown. It might have been like 60 yarders actually. So it was like, well, if he can do that, translate to regular season, maybe he could be a starter. So it's kind of hard to split that line up between overreaction and reacting.
Yeah, and I think there is some truth, right? Where there's smoke, there's fire. So let's start with Drew Lock and that Denver Broncos team. I think it appeared to me that Drew Lock was going to be the starter. Now, whether or not he maintains that role the entire year, we'll see. I think Teddy Bridgewater is a very competent quarterback, and I think Drew Lock is on a short string. That being said, he looked pretty good. It just gives me a little bit. I'm not moving my rankings up or down based on that game, but it does make me feel confident in where I have my Denver Broncos pass catchers. These guys are, they're still good. They're still really talented, and they should be able to put up fantasy points this year.
Yeah, I'm actually sitting okay with Sutton and my Judy shares. I'm not really getting too excited, not getting down about it or anything like that. That I saw Drew Lock, he did his thing, and let's hopefully translate to the regular season, even if it's Teddy Bridgewater. He also is a guy that can be potential starter as well. So I'm not jumping up and down and saying, yo, let's go. Jerry Judy's going to have a top 10. Nah, I need to pump the brakes, wait just a little bit. I need to see a lot more. So I definitely am not going to be going crazy over things like that happened during preseason.
Yeah, I agree. But there are some things that really Shane
Noah Fant. Yeah.
Noah Fant's only going to go up this offseason. I'm a believer in Noah Fant. The dude is incredibly talented. But speaking of guys who are incredibly talented, Justin Fields balled out for the Bears.
Yes, he did. Game. That's not overreaction. That's just me reacting, saying,
no.
Woo, that boy's going to ball. He's going to have himself a career. And I think Chicago have a gem on their hands. So I definitely think, it's going to be a little while till we see him as a starter because apparently they're full sending Dalton. So, yeah.
Look, I think Dalton is probably the starter for week 2, and then I think it's the Justin Fields show.
I'm
And
thinking
from
third quarter, first week 1.
you think they're down so bad at halftime against your
They're gonna be
Rams
down by like 20. Gonna be down by
we'll
like
see.
21.
We'll see. I'm excited for that week 1 game. It should be a good one. But Justin Fields, man, he looked good.
If I'm not mistaken, they face us.
Yep, they do.
Yeah, they face the Rams.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Mm-mm. Keep Fields off the field with Aaron Donald there. Keep him
So,
alive.
right. I think Andy Dalton gets the start against the Bengals.
Yeah,
right.
That's why he's the starter for week 1.
Yeah. So
Matt Nagy knows what he's doing. Oh my God.
Don't go that far. Don't go that far. But I do think Andy Dalton starts. I think he'll start week 1. I think he'll start week 2 against the Bengals. And then after the Bears start 0-2, taking losses to the Rams and the Bengals, right? Yep. Fields starting week 3. You love to see it. You love to see it. So
it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Dude, he's good. He's good. He's not a guy that like I'm going to like actively try and draft in redraft leagues.
Oh, not.
But when he comes of it, like when he's announced a starter, like depending on my quarterback situation, that might be a waiver grab that I definitely reach out
honestly, for. People are probably grabbing him as the QB2. I'm not a big fan of grabbing 2 quarterbacks in redraft, especially if it's one quarterback. But I can see it happening in my home league. I can see it happening in a lot of leagues, to be honest.
Yeah, there are a lot of leagues that are going to draft quarterbacks. And if if you're thinking that maybe you're worried about, if your quarterback 1 is like Ryan Fitzpatrick and you're worried about him being supplanted later in the season, Justin Fields is a guy who can absolutely do that. One other thing I want to talk about, and I feel like this really flew under the radar, is Texans running backs. Phillip Lindsay outsnapped David Johnson and with the ones. And I don't know if that is due to trying to rest David Johnson. I know he's not exactly young by running back measurables, but the dude ain't old either. I am officially concerned for David Johnson, and I am Phillip Lindsay is somebody that if I can get him in the 12th, 13th round, I will take a shot in the dark at Phillip Lindsay. On that, if you get a guy who, even if he splits the running back carries 50-50 at that point in the draft, I think that's some great value. So I don't know. That was just something I wanted to know because it's like real. I was surprised by that.
It was probably like a split. So I really feel like it's more so them sitting David Johnson for veteran rest. I really think David Johnson's still the number 1. But Lindsay, he was getting grabbed, at least for me, in the later rounds at all costs because he's a great running back. He's a good all-around guy. He's not going to catch like a ton of balls out the backfield, but not saying he can't. But I think he could be a good backup, like a change of pace for David Johnson, I think David Johnson, week 1 last year, we saw him kind of like refresh. He was amped up. He put up big points on the board. I mean, he put up RB1 numbers week 1. Then he kind of died out the rest of the couple of weeks, but then he finished like the season pretty good. You know what I mean? So I think David Johnson's being looked over quite a ton. And I definitely think, David Johnson's still the guy that I want to grab before I grab Lindsay. But either way, if I can grab Lindsay in the later rounds and David Johnson's gone, then I'm still sitting pretty.
Yeah, and one thing that I was surprised, just the Texans as a whole didn't look bad. In their preseason game. I mean, I know it's preseason, but like they didn't come out and do like the dumb things that you see bad teams do in the preseason. Like there weren't a ton of penalties. There weren't like the fumbled snaps, like botched punt. Like I feel like that's what bad teams do in the preseason, and they were able to avoid that for the most part. So
I think Watson might end up playing now with the new reports. I think he might end up playing eventually.
I ain't drafting him
yet. I ain't saying draft him, but that team might not be as bad as everybody thinks.
Fair. All right, LQ. I'm heartbroken to see this, right? And this is not necessarily just a preseason week 1, but like kind of the last week too. The Ravens wide receiver injuries, man. How that is tough.
It's basically back to square one with them running the ball probably like 40 times a game because they are a run-first offense. So the wide receivers being hurt, it does put a damper on their new plans, but they can always go back to what they were doing last year just to be able to live afloat. I mean, you still have, Mark Andrews. I mean, Sammy Watkins is there, but we know he's injury prone as well with his history. But I really feel like, Jackson can get it done on the ground, and J.K. Dobbins. And I really feel like, Gus the Bus, Gus Edwards will be able to be serviceable as well. So I think they're just going to be focusing on the run, which, again, we've seen them be very successful with the run. I think they're not in a bad boat as much as we honestly think they are, especially, with the new addition of Bateman being hurt. I know we wanted him to be, 100% healthy a little more, but I think we're going to get a slow start from him, which is fine. Long season on the field, he's healthy and he's able to play and showcase his talent.
Yeah. From a redraft perspective, I really don't think there's a Ravens wide receiver that I want on my team at their current cost. I'm just not the volume. Like, look, LQ, you preach it, right? If you were go to the Church of Laquan, it would say at the very top, follow the volume. Like, that is exactly what it would read up there. The Ravens have the lowest passing volume in the NFL. They have the least pass attempts in the NFL in 2020. I would be honestly quite shocked if they weren't in the bottom 5 again this year, because it's just not what their team does. I'm staying away. There's nothing for me there. But to stick in the division, right? One team left, another group of wide receivers that I want to talk about. Steelers.
Yeah.
Pass heavy, looked pretty good. Looked better than they did in the Hall of Fame game. Barely. Yeah, I just thought the offense looked a little more fluid. In order, where they at? I want to hear how you ranking those Steelers receivers.
Obviously, Deontay Johnson, Claypool, then Juju. And I think Deontay Johnson only because how explosive he is. I mean, he's getting a lot of balls on a line of scrimmage or 5 yards from the scrimmage, whatever. The A-dot stat doesn't bother me at all. But Deontay Johnson is the playmaker, I think, for the Steelers. Chase Claypool scared me a little bit, making that dive and catch, which was very unnecessary.
Yeah,
but a little bit. Thankfully, he's not hurt. You know what I mean? So I think he could be a deep threat. He could be like one of the guys that you could depend on touchdowns for. Juju's going to be Juju in the slot. I really think, all 3 of these guys are like must draft. You must have at least one of them. I definitely think Juju's going to be the guy to put up those touchdowns again, because it's like people were ignoring that. He had like 9 touchdowns last season. Like, that's nothing light. He's going to be in the end zone. So I definitely think Big Ben is going to be, able to lean on his guys and also lean on Najee Harris as well. Now they have a running game that can actually, be productive.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are low on the Steelers wide receivers because they go, "Oh, Big Ben."
What up, Jake? Thanks for tuning in.
Life. I love. Hey, look, Nick Chubb. God, he's good. He is good at football, man. He is good at football.
I think he's talking about the Chubba Hubba from the Panthers.
Ooh,
yeah.
Bro, that run was disgusting that he had, where he was throwing guys off.
But he ran out of gas. But I'm not going to fault him for that. I'm not going to fault him for running out of gas.
Nah, look, not everybody can be Christian McCaffrey, man. That running back tandem. If you're drafting CMC and you're not getting Chuba,
here's a hot take. Now that we're getting closer to the end of August, it is the fantasy heat check. CMC is not my 1-on-1 no more. He's not my 1-on-1 no more. And I'm not going to reveal who's my new 1-on-1 because I'm going to hold off. But CMC is no longer my 1-on-1. Just saying.
Why?
Oh, Jake was talking about Nick Chubb.
There we go. Look, I was watching through the first episode of the Fantasy Heat Check, and if you guys haven't watched all the episodes of the Fantasy Heat Check, you should, because they are all incredibly fire. But we went through our top 5 running backs, and you did have a little hesitation on CMC. It was still your 1-on-1 then, but
look, we're getting closer to the season. We're about, mid-August. Drafts are on the way. If I'm at the 1-on-1 spot in a 1 QB regular redraft, I do not know. I love
that. I love a little controversy. Having a unanimous 101 is no fun.
It really isn't.
Yeah, the CMC, I feel like everybody, and I've definitely been seeing this in the fantasy Twitter space, is that everybody's like, yep, Patrick Mahomes, quarterback 1. And that,
yeah, he's in my home league. See, they be looking, they're watching.
That's smart. That's smart.
That's why I didn't reveal. See, there you go.
I feel like everybody has locked in like Christian McCaffrey, number one running back, Patrick Mahomes, number one quarterback, and like I feel like there are very few certainties in fantasy football. That Travis Kelsey tight end one though, always that is the certainty.
And so proving different, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Kelsey, even with age, I really feel like he's just too elite. I mean, he has Patrick Mahomes, like that's a cheat code. So I really think Travis Kelsey needs to be tight end one for the next 10 years. You know what I mean?
He's I would much rather be wrong on when Travis Kelsey is going to fall off than fade him for sure. But Speaking of tight ends, right, there is obviously a tier, and we know this, like the top three are pretty much locked in that top tier, right? So we have Kelsey, Kittle, and Waller in whatever order you want.
Yeah.
So what we are here to do, LQ, is we're going to bless the people with some tight end guys that we are going out to target if you don't get those three, right? Because look, there's only three of them. You're going to have to get them early if you don't want to take, those guys at the top end of your draft. LQ, I know you have a guy for me to target late that is going to help me win my fantasy championship. Who are some tight ends that you really want to grab?
Well, the first one obviously is Juju Smith. I've been beating this drum for the last 2 years. Juju Smith is electric. I mean, all you have to do is watch him in open space, how fast and how physical he is. And he's not a guy that's like a tight end that's there to block. He is a route runner. He is a cheat code. So for him to be taken, lining up in a backfield and taking that off 20 yards behind the line of scrimmage, it's just like this dude is an all-around guy that you want. And New England Patriots, they paid him some chunky guaranteed money, so they're going to be using him. They might use and abuse him. He can easily be the one or two, top pass catcher for them. And I really think that'll vary between Cam Newton and Mac Jones, whoever ends up the starter. So I think Juju Smith is still very, very cheap, like cheap, like cheap as dirt, to where you're still able to wait on a tight end if you don't get a Waller, if you don't get a Kettle, or how do you say, Travis Kelsey?
Yeah. Change it. Get out of here. Come on, you can't change it up. First off, you got to drop Travis Kelsey down the rankings for shaving the beard, man. Oh,
beard, bro. It doesn't even look like him. Oh, that looks like some dude that works at like Staples or something like that. That's not him anymore.
That man's out here printing faxes.
Yeah, man. That's not him.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, John is a stud, man. And I was thinking about this earlier today, and I was like, man, who are some tight ends that I love? Like when you look at like some of the dominant tight ends, like Travis Kelsey was the number one option on that Chiefs team for a while. Like George Kittle, he's the number one option in San Francisco. Darren Waller's the number one option in Oakland. Like Zach Ertz, when he was dominant, like he was the number one option in Philly.
That's the thing people don't really go into draft thinking. You need a tight end that's tight end friendly. If you go into this and the tight end's like the third option and you grab him, what a waste. What a waste. You need a tight end friendly offense. Juju Smith, Hunter Henry are both tight ends that are in a system where we've seen, like, it's proof. Gronk. All I got to say is Gronk. The tight end system worked. The wide receivers aren't big names. They're not names that are like great. Myers is on the rise, which is great. I love Myers. No, I got nothing against him. Nelson Aguilar. Come on, man. Nelson Aguilar had a good year with the Raiders. I think they'll be able to use him in the right spots, be able to, make him better. But
he's still not a number one target.
No, not a number one target. Yeah. Heavens no. So that's why you need to have a tight end that's in a tight end friendly offense. Irv Smith, another guy that we can mention. He's in an offense where he could potentially be, the second or third option. But I think he'll live on touchdowns like Kyle Rudolph did. Kyle Rudolph was like a top 10 tight end back-to-back years when he was like coming up. And then they drafted Irv Smith. And then that's when the split came where they were splitting the shares. So I definitely think you need to look at some of these offenses and the pecking order of the targets of like, where does this tight end fit into this scheme? Like a Tyler Higbee, like this makes me angry. We're not going to go into that. I'm about to have like a brain aneurysm thinking about Tyler Higbee right now, but we're going to skip over him. We'll save that for next week. I'll save that heat for next week.
We can do some guys next week. Guys, we're going to avoid.
Yes.
Got it. Hey, look, I'm going to type it out. Look, you can see on the Google Doc. Guys, we're going to avoid. Look at us. Look at us. We're good at this. We're good at this whole podcast.
Show sheet for next week.
Hey, come watch the show next week if you want to see the guys that we're actively avoiding in drafts. But
yes,
we're going to keep it on the tight ends. Also a tight end who might be the number one target on his team, right? Jonnu, great. TJ Hawkinson. Not a ton of weapons in Detroit. Kenny Golladay is gone. He could be the number one pass catcher in that offense. And volume is king, right? We know this. We've been over it. If you're taking notes out there, write it down again. I'm in love with TJ Hawkinson. And I know that he's very frequently taken as the 4th, 5th, 6th tight end, around that same range as Pitts and Mark Andrews. I'm still a fan of Hawkinson. I'm not going to reach for him, but if he falls to me, I'm a big fan of having Hawkinson on my rosters.
Yes, and Jared Goff is a QB that likes to stick with security blankets. I really feel like Cooper Kupp at one point was that security blanket for him in the red zone, et cetera, et cetera. Robert Woods has come into his own to be very reliable wide receiver. So he's going to stick to what he knows or whatever is safe so he doesn't make the big mistake. So Hawk is obviously going to be the number one target for him to pass to. So therefore, he's going to go to Hawk every single time if Hawk is open in the middle of the field. Jared Goff is actually really good at targeting, wide receivers, tight ends, pass catchers, I should say, in the middle of the field. So that's why Gurley was so good. That's why Tyler Higbee had that 5-game stretch where he was able to perform at a top notch and elite. And I really feel like, Jared Goff's going up there with a clear mind. He might not have the coaching staff to hold his hand like how Sean McVay did, but I think Goff is there to prove something. He's there with a chip on his shoulder. He's playing angry. Let's put it like that. He has something to play for. So I think, TJ Hawk is a clear cut. If I miss out on the big 3, he might actually be the only tight end that I will actually take in probably like that 4th or 5th round, to be honest, because the volume is key.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, LQ. I have one more guy that I'm going to touch on. Is there anybody else that you want to touch on from a tight end standpoint that, like, if you're like late, I'm going to go and get this guy?
No, not really. What up, Troy?
Troy King. Hey, congrats on the new gig, Troy. Moving up in the world.
Damn right.
He's like my fantasy dad. Like, Troy's just you just look up to Troy because he's just the nice guy. Gotta love him. But another tight end that you want to grab, you got to get one more, LQ. If you have to grab one, and look, we're gonna say John who's gone, Hop's gone. Who you getting?
Robert Tonyan. Then I mean that's obvious. Aaron Rodgers is back, so that hype is back. He trusts him, so that's a good thing. Aaron Rodgers likes to have trust in his pass catchers, and obviously that's going to be a thing in the red zone. I don't think he'll be as touchdown dependent. I think we'll see some good, receptions from him. I think we can see something build up to something beautiful. You know what I mean? I definitely think Robert Tonyan should be back on the hype train. I think he's definitely one of the guys you should target.
I feel like a lot of tight ends are touchdown dependent, right? Like that. That's kind of like a thing.
If it's not a tight end friendly offense, then yes.
Yeah. But if I'm gonna have a touchdown dependent tight end, like maybe we have a touchdown dependent tight end who plays for Aaron Rodgers. That seems like a guy that you would want to be, playing with as your quarterback.
The QB matters. The QB absolutely matters.
All right. Gesicki love. I'm out on Mike. I'm out on Mike Gesicki.
If Troy's still here, I don't want nothing to do with it. Nope.
Look, it's not anything on Mike Gesicki. It's the fact that they brought in 2 other pass catchers, right, to compete for targets in that offense. You have Devontae Smith, right, who was there last year, had a great year. He had a great year 2 years ago, finished as a wide receiver 11. Then they draft Jalen Waddle with the 7th overall pick, and then they go ahead and they sign Will Fuller. Now, obviously, health shaky here and there, whatever. All 3 of those guys who are very good pass catchers. They're not guys that need a ton of volume, but they are guys that are good pass catchers. Is Gesicki going to be fantasy relevant? Yes. Yeah, I think Gesicki's going to be fantasy relevant. He's just not a guy that I'm targeting. I could see him finish, I think I have him right as my tight end 10 or 11, somewhere in there. But I like the talent. It's just if I'm going to get a guy in that range, I think there's other guys that I would rather have on my roster.
Absolutely. And I don't see the Dolphins being tight end friendly for me to actually want to have shares of Gesicki. It's not a must. It's not like anything's popping off right now. Yeah, what's going on, Manny? Kingston, what's up? What's up? Sullivan with the Chubb love. What up? What up? Headliners. Thank you for popping through, showing some support.
We appreciate y'all being active in the chat. It's It's a good feeling. It's a good feeling.
Yeah, let's keep the chat booming.
Who's we're gonna move on. Huh? Oh, okay. I got one more guy.
To hear that.
Okay. Logan Thomas is being unbelievably slept on. He played with some of the worst quarterback play in football last year. Yes, he gets improved quarterback play in Ryan Fitzpatrick. And people are going, oh, well, I'm worried about, Curtis Samuel and Giammi Brown being added. Like, maybe, it's a one-year wonder. Like, I understand being scared of a late tight end breakout, but all of the keys are still there, right? Like, that offense should be improved. Logan Thomas was great last year. They didn't add a ton of Curtis Samuel is great, but he's a guy that you kind of manufacture touches for. And I don't think he takes a ton of Thomas's targets and red zone stuff away from him. Right.
Yeah, there's enough targets to feed people. There's enough to go around. It's like, I really feel like if JD McKisson was able to be fantasy relevant week to week with all the targets he was getting, I don't see the problem why Logan Thomas this year can't be relevant as well. If anything, Samuel hurts JD. It doesn't hurt Logan Thomas at all. He's still in that middle of the field and he's still eating. So I definitely think, Logan Thomas being under the radar is good for me and it's good for you, for the people that are watching. So I definitely want all shares of Logan Thomas if I can get him.
And I think he's a guy who's a little less touchdown dependent too. I think he's a little more consistent week to week because he gets the dude had 72 catches last year. Like that is a high number for tight ends. So in PPR, he's definitely a guy that I would, I think he has a higher floor. He's going to be a little bit more consistent week to week. You like to have that from the tight end position, but we're going to go and we're going to hit some quarterback targets. All right. I'm going to talk about my first one because I am in love with the dude. Bro, he knows. Fitz magic. He's got it. Fitzmagic has got it. But I'm going to talk about some quarterbacks, right, that I am grabbing if I'm not getting a top guy because I don't want to I'm a big wait on quarterback guy. It's just always how I've been in redraft. I would much rather wait and try to fill in some of my top end positions before I go and draft a guy like Patrick Mahomes or my quarterback one, Dak Prescott. Yeah. But I'm big on Ryan Tannehill this year, dude. I am big on Ryan Tannehill. They brought in Julio. They got AJ Brown. Like that team is good. They got Josh Reynolds, your boy from the Rams. Like he's solid. I am a big for that Titans offense, man. They're good.
I mean, they're going to be good, and I think adding Julio just reassured me that I need Ryan Tannehill. Like I need him on my roster. I need him to keep going under the radar. I need him to keep being forgotten. I absolutely scream when I see all these other quarterbacks, like the late round quarterbacks go ahead of him. I'm like, that is a reach. That is a huge reach, but it's fine. I'll take Tanny. And Superflex. I'll take him in one quarterback league. Doesn't matter. Just give me all of Tanny this year.
Yeah, the dude has been good for fantasy football, and he was great last year. Great last year.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, dude. Casey, we must be on the same page because I literally have Ryan Fitzpatrick on the list. Like we just talked about. We talked about all the weapons in Washington. Like that, the quarterback play can only go up. Do I think Tannehill will be top 5?
I would say I don't know. I won't be. Look, put it like this: I won't be surprised if he is top 5. But for me, top 10 for sure. Lock it.
Yeah, I have him at 7. I think he finishes.
I can do
right
7.
there.
I can do 7.
Who's the most underrated quarterback in fantasy, and why is it Derek Carr?
It is him and Kirk Cousins. Those are the if you're looking for a guy outside the top 10 that can still produce week to week, it's literally Kirk Cousins and Derek Carr. That's it. That list ends right there at 11, 12. That's it. They're underrated for the simple fact that sometimes they do stupid things, and we see a lot of their stupid things, highlighted. Kirk Cousins, whoo. He destroyed me in Scott Fishbowl with the interceptions. Let me tell you that. Let's just say that.
Yeah, I don't. Those guys aren't. I'm not enamored with them because they don't add any value with the running game, which is why I don't have them as top 10 guys. Most of these top 10 guys
they sit outside. They can run. Tanny can run.
Right?
Ryan Fitzpatrick can run too. Once upon a time, he was very mobile.
Yeah, so they're absolutely guys that I think can be studs. How many touchdowns for touchdowns are hard to predict, man? How many?
I'm going 30.
I'm gonna
30.
I'm gonna look.
He had I don't remember. I'm going to say he had 28 last year. He going to go for
I think
32.
he had 28. All right, I'm looking. We're going to see. Ryan Fitzpatrick had a 33 last year. I think it's about right. I think 30 touchdowns.
30.
I don't think that defense is much improved. I think they're going to have to score points. Playing Jacksonville and Houston absolutely helps. That is something that I'm also high on the Colts for from a running game perspective. When you get Jonathan Taylor against that Jacksonville defense and against that Texans defense, I mean, you're going to be able to he could be, and the Titans defense stinks too. Jonathan Taylor could be an RB1 just solely based off those 6 games.
Yeah.
It's insane how, and that's something that you have to take into consideration too when you draft and play guys like this. They're talented, but a lot of times it comes down to who they play to. The schedule's easy for the Titans. I think they certainly have a path, to a lot of fantasy success on that whole offense. And I know we talked about it in our, the mock draft episode that we did. Yeah. I'm stacking Titans players when I can. I think they score quite a bit of fantasy points.
Of course. Tannehill always cleans up in December too. As fantasy playoffs, you want guys who are going to show out during the most important time of the year, and that's, the playoffs. So I wouldn't recommend a Russell Wilson as much as everybody loves how he cooks the first half, but then playoffs, he destroys you. So there's that. Give me Ryan Tannehill.
Look, Russ is out of my top 10, man. He's out of my top 10 in quarterbacks. I'm not going to
sign it. That was a hot take last week, but
that's fine. I'm still on it. Nothing has changed. They don't have the passing volume. I'm not a big believer in his legs anymore. His rushing touchdown has decreased year after year. But if that's the one thing I'm wrong on, I'll be okay with it. But I'm not in on Russ this year.
Spicy.
I got another. All right, LQ. You can't have all that Ram shit behind you and then not talk about Matthew Stafford. How are we feeling about Stafford going into this year?
I don't want to jinx him, so I'm not like on Twitter like screaming top 10 or top 5, but he's going to have a very good year. That's all I'm going to say. He might throw for 5K. He might throw for 35 touchdowns plus. I don't know. But I'm just going to say this. You need to be targeting him. He's another guy that is going in the later rounds. Him and Big Ben, like last year, I had both of them for my comeback season. They're going to be great. They're going to be this. But obviously, some of that didn't pan out. But I think this will be the year where Stafford's still going disrespectfully low, but you can still get him, and he's going to be a QB1 week to week. I mean, this offense is going to be disgusting. It's going to be absolutely electric.
Yeah, and if I'm going to draft a quarterback, right, that isn't a big running threat, I want a guy who's going to have a ton of passing volume. I want a guy that has a ton of weapons. I want a guy that's going to be in an efficient offense.
You can't ask me anything about Rams because, again, my home league, some of them are watching. I know they're watching. This is a home league guy right here.
I love that. See, that's the hard thing about making fantasy content is they're like, yeah, but we I don't know how high I am on this guy. It is what it is.
I'm gonna sugarcoat it. I come and kick ass anyway.
My home league sucks regardless, so I'm going to win that son of a bitch either way. So I ain't worried about it. I ain't worried about it. Watch this. Watch my stuff. It's fine. I don't care. I'm still going to beat you. You love to see it. You love to see it. But the lack of rushing touchdowns is the one thing that I'm worried about with Stafford. He hasn't had a rushing touchdown since 2016. So that does concern me just a little bit. But
I don't think he will need to. I want him to stand in the pocket, stay healthy, and throw for 40 touchdowns. That's fine. I mean, the rushing yards, he's able to still roll out and take off if need be. He's not as hesitant as, a Jared Goff was in this offense. There's going to be times where he needs to break out, step up in the pocket, and just take off and get that first down. I think Stafford still has the wheels, still has the heart to do so. So I think, we're not going to see 500 rushing yards from him. You could just throw that out of the window. I'll be surprised if we even see 300, you know what I mean? So that is very excessive to think you were going to get anything out of him in that department, but he might throw for literally 35 touchdowns. He might throw for 5K yards. I'll take that over everything. He still will end up in the top 10 with those stats.
LQ, there's a general football question that I just thought off the top of my head. How many season-long records do you think we're going to see broken this year with a 17th game? Do you think that we're going to break the passing yards record, the receiving yard, individual receiving yards, individual touchdowns? I would be surely we have to see 1 or 2 of those get broken, right?
I think Henry runs.
You think he breaks it?
I think Henry runs it through the record. Honestly, I think he runs through the record. He might.
That would be incredible.
He might do it.
Oh man, I gotta look up the Titan. I want to see the Titans schedule for the end of the season. Like, you know what I mean? If it's down to like the last couple of games, oh man, I gotta look. Okay,
it's gonna be disgusting. Like I think he might be the one to do it.
Okay, so the last couple games are kind of a tough stretch. Their last 4 games, they have Steelers, Niners, Dolphins. Right, pretty good defenses.
Holy shite!
Yep. So that a little tough there. Texans are the last game.
Oh, that's where he runs for 1,000 in that game.
You know what I'm saying? But like, if he could put up like a 200 yard, I wouldn't be shocked if we get to like the last week of the season and then you get to like that Texans game and it's like, he needs 205 yards to get the record.
Chubb healthy, he could be the next one up.
That offensive line is so
Chubb or Cook, but I'm leaning more towards like a Henry Chubb thing. This is correct, Kevin. You are spot on. Like definitely.
That offensive line is so good too.
It's disgusting.
They're so good.
Chubb healthy. If he gives us all 16, 17 games, he might be one of the candidates to like bust a record.
All right, so I think we're feeling pretty good on quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Do we have any mailbag? Does anybody have any other questions? While we're here, we're live. This is the People's Show. We are the People's Podcast. Is there any questions that you guys want to see? What's Chubb's final month schedule? Fine. I'll look it up.
The data guy now.
Okay. First off, not a data guy, bro. I do that at work and I hate it. I hate being, it's terrible. Chubb's final games. All right, not great. Not great. Bro, they play the Ravens in back-to-back weeks. What the hell? Not back-to-back weeks, but they play Ravens by Ravens. That's wild as hell. That is insane. What? God, that sucks. Okay. Anyway, their last 4 games, that is the weird. I have not seen that in a scheduling thing ever.
That's weird. A mistake.
Okay. Last 4 games, they play the Raiders at home. They have Packers, which you can run on the Packers.
You can.
Steelers is going to be tough. Bengals at home.
Stay healthy. If Steelers should stay healthy.
Yeah, that's true. Bengals at home.
Yeah, Bengals at home. You might go to that game.
That's a friendly stretch. I don't know. January, it's cold in Cincinnati, man. Oh, no, that's in Cleveland. Ooh, man, it's cold in Cleveland in January. Maybe I go to the Bengals-Browns game that's like in Cincinnati in November. It's a little warmer. I don't know. Okay, you going to any games this year? New Jersey? Rams make their way East Coast?
I mean, every time the Rams come East Coast, I try to go. Like if it's Eagles, if it's Giants or whatever. But I'm thinking about that Pittsburgh game. I'm really sitting on it right now. I mean, I already drove out there like Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Long drive.
Yeah, long drive. But I'm thinking about it. I might. Here's the next question.
Swift top 10 this year.
Manny, hell no. Hell no. I'm going to say it. Hell no. I'm not on the Swift train. Go ahead, Cody. You can save it.
Yeah. The thing about being a top 10 running back is you kind of need everything to fall into place a little bit. And while I think all the talent is there with Swift, he has all the talent. He could get a ton of passing work. I'm just not a believer in the Detroit Lions offense. And
you're literally throwing away the possibility of 1,000-yard rusher for the simple fact, one, if we're going to follow trends, the Lions haven't had 1,000-yard rusher since Reggie Bush. God, look how long ago that was.
I agree. New scheme, though.
New scheme. You have Anthony Lynn. If Anthony Lynn
that's true.
Uses him as Austin Eckler 2.0, then okay. We're not expecting 1,000 yards from Austin Eckler. We're expecting 90 catches from Austin Eckler. If that is what's on the table for Swift, then we're good. But I don't want to even think Anthony Lynn trying to run the ball at the gut with Swift.
See, I don't like Anthony Lynn's play calling, period.
At all, period.
That crushed that Chargers team last year in what should have been like a pretty deep. His clock management is all weird. Like, I think he plays way too conservatively.
This disturbs me, Manny. This disturbs me. Yes, he is the second best wide receiver on the team. But he's a running back. they're going to try to run the ball with him.
He's going to need insane volume. He's going to need insane volume. It's the same
for him to be like top 10. He would need literally probably less than 10 rushes, which we see from Austin Ekeler, but like 16 targets out of the backfield and at least 2 touchdowns to be relevant that week. So I don't think he needs that much to be relevant, but like if he's going to be top 10, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. I kind of put him kind of with Joe Mixon. Whereas like different situations, but at the same time, like they need everything to go right for them to be top 10 guys. They're right on the edge, but they need everything to go right. Like they need the offense to be efficient. He finished at 10 that one year.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
He had 1,000 yards behind a bad O-line. You know, you're a Bengals fan.
Yeah, I know about bad O-line play.
But the thing is, Swift ain't getting 1,000 yards. That's the only problem. He's not getting 1,000 yards.
That's fair. All right. Well, LQ, is there anything else you want to bless the people with before we head on our way on this beautiful Thursday?
We got one last question. Sam Darnold and Carolina thoughts with Joe Brady. I'll let you go first.
I think this might be the boldest take I have ever said. And I like I joke, but there's a little seriousness in this take. PJ Walker might have more fantasy points this year than Sam Darnold. Do I actually believe that? No. But there is a part of me that believes that PJ Walker is the best quarterback on that team. I am not a believer in Sam Darnold. I don't have him in my top 20 quarterbacks. I don't think he starts the whole season. I really don't. Like
Damn.
I'm just not a believer in him. I think PJ Walker gets some run at some point. The dude played for Matt Rule at Temple. Like Joe Brady, if you don't think Joe Brady is salivating to be able to use a mobile quarterback, you are out of your mind. I'm not a believer. Darnold turns the ball over too much.
I'll honestly be surprised.
I'm going to clip that like prior where I say that PJ Walker is going to score more. If that happens, I'm going to lose my lid, pal. I will absolutely go nuts.
Yeah, for real. I'll probably, I don't know what I'll do. That'll be like the greatest take of all time, honestly. I'll pin it. I'll pin it to my profile. You'll replace my
go.
And then I'll pin it to my profile if that actually hits. That's huge, by the way.
Love that. Love that.
Oh,
yeah, I know. To replace the fantasy footballers, that'd be tough. I could do
tough, but it'll be worth it.
Absolutely.
That'll be the greatest take of all time if that happens.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a great Thursday. Fantasy Heat Check every Thursday, hopefully. From now throughout the season, we're going to give you all the great fantasy content that you know, love, and deserve. We're going to help you win your week because that's what we do. It's what we do.
We are for the people. We are for the people. We are the people's peeps. So definitely show up next week. Make sure you comment, like, and share, and throw your comments down there for the mailbag, and we'll answer all your questions next week. And hey, we are going to be out of here today, but you'll be seeing me in an hour. I don't want to reveal where
Fantasy Pros. Yeah, no, definitely plug.
Oh, thanks. I was going to save it.
Definitely plug. Bro, that's on me. Bad host. That's on me.
Yes, I'll be on Fantasy Pros.
Fantasy
I'll be on Fantasy Pros in 1 hour Eastern, 6 o'clock. You'll see me there. And maybe Cody.
No, dude, I gotta cook dinner. It's a whole thing. But go check out LQ on the Fantasy Pros later this evening. I'm sure we'll have clips and stuff all over the internet as well. Make sure you subscribe for more real deal fantasy content. We are going to help you win your leagues this year. Follow on Twitter, Instagram, and all places that you can find the best sports content in the world. With that, LQ, we're out.
We are out of here. Peace.